talk for just a few minutes on this how. And what we're going to examine is how do gender differences play themselves out in assessing leadership competencies. Men are also much less likely to recognize gender bias in the workplace. Again, something you kind of intuitively know. Well, now we have, qualitative research. 49% of women think gender bias is alive and well, compared to only 28% of men. And in fact, when senior leaders were asked, what's the representation of women in the most senior ranks of our company? 40% of CEOs estimated it was well over 20%. The number is actually 15%. And that number has not changed. When you look at the Catalyst research, literally women in executive ranks for the last 10 years has not changed. It is stuck at 15%. So we're going to look at these three competencies real quickly to kind of figure out what has to change and how we do this. You've got to look at the Catalyst definition of the question. And what it says is developing and maintaining relationships with others who may provide information or support resources. That is very mindful networking and relationship building. This should really be a significant strength for women. Women's social networks are 4 to 5 times as big as men. But there is a belief among women that I would be improper if I picked up the phone and asked you for a favor. I would jeopardize that friendship. You know what? Men don't have that problem, right? We just don't think that way. When your voice is not being heard in a meeting, have you done the meeting before the meeting? Meetings are never about getting a decision made. Meetings are around building consensus. What men know that women don't know is that before the big meeting, I am going to go out and talk to all the key decision makers, and the bigger the project, the more people I'm going to talk to. I'm going to find out who's behind me, and I'm going to find out who my opponents are. And at least I will have an understanding so that when Jim, I know, opposes my point of view, I can then align my allies to say, well, it's funny, Jim, I know you had that issue. Let's talk to Jill and let's talk to John. What did you guys think about this? So you're deflecting, right? The bigger the decision, the more pre-sell is necessary. Women network for relationships, whereas men network to compete and win. That is a huge statement. We are shameless about it. I think it's because we have very little else to talk about. But when I meet a man, I shake hands and I immediately go, hi, Jeff Halter, I own my own consulting company. And whatever he introduces himself as, I'm already thinking about how can he help me get business. And he's thinking the same thing about me. And we have absolutely no issue about this. Women's aversion to this naked quid pro quo translates into a wealth of supportive peers, but a dearth of unused relational capital. Problem solving. Men said they did this better. Women said they did it better. So let's again look back at our Catalyst definition, identifying, analyzing, and acting decisively to remove impediments to workplace performance. The key word in that statement is decisively. The issue is who makes better decisions. And it boils down to this. Men define problem solving as decisiveness. Women define problem solving as coming up with the right answer. Think about that. We go in, we shoot from the hip. Connie talked about it. We're only 2% right. We really don't care. We're going to go in. We're going to present this idea. We're going to defend it to the death. Women take longer to make the decision. You're whole brain people. Connie talked about that. You're taking in and processing more data. You are a better problem solver than most men. But what happens? It takes you longer. And what's the kiss of death when you're sitting at the leadership table? Indecisive. Indecisive. So be more decisive. Be crisp. Be tight. That is how men, the people who may hold your future in their hands, define problem solving. So this is one where I believe men actually need more training. And it gets back to this whole talent thing, right? That people, not everybody makes the same decisions the same way. And then the last part of this influencing upward is a great resource that I've seen. It's called the PI model. The PI model. And it looks at 3 areas. The first one is performance. Moving up in an organization, performance is a given, right? You're competing with really good people. If your numbers aren't there, you're not going to be considered for the next promotion. So performance being a baseline is 10% of the way you get ahead, right? Oh, by the way, your results have to be there. I'm not minimizing performance, but it's only 10% of the reason people get ahead. The second one is image. This represents about 30% of the reasons people get ahead. And I don't mean how you dress. What I mean is, what is the image of you in the organization? If you asked a peer to describe you in 3 words, what would they be? And do those sound like words of the person who should be your boss or your boss's boss? If they're not complimentary, if you're called the go-to girl, if you're called the problem solver, if you're called something that might be seen as derogative in a leader, if you're seen as a perfectionist, right? Those are not positive words. So if 10% is performance and 30% is image, 60% is exposure. Who knows who you are and the work that you're doing? Who knows who you are and the work that you're doing? How does this play itself out? Well, at the leadership level, if performance is a given and everybody's got a really good image, who am I letting in our inner circle? Women are over-mentored and under-sponsored. There's a belief among women that if I just do one more thing, I will get ahead. I go back to my earlier comment. You guys are great just the way you are. You have to make your intentions known that you want not just the next job, but the next job higher. That comes from exposure and dialogue and performance and image. So influencing upward, I think this is a possible development area if you're not good at it, and it's critically important on how you move forward in the organization.